Good morning, dear respected Thay, dear beloved community. Today is the 13th of April 2019, and we are in the Entering Monastery in Australia, and we are in the Earth Refreshing Meditation Hall. Our home here can be oneself, so we start with oneself. And our home can be our family. Our home can be our community. And our home is there when we are there. If we are not there, then our home is not there. And to be there, we need to unite our body and our mind, to be truly present, to be mindful of our breathing. The breathing is happening in the present moment. So breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. And I enjoy this very moment, being alive. Beside this moment, there is no other moment for us to live. If we run into the future, we are preparing to live in the future, which we are very well trained at, then the graveyard is our destination, for sure. So therefore, this moment, this very moment, breathing in and breathing out, being alive, is the only moment for us to live. This very moment, here and now, is the address of our home. And we can only dwell in our home with the energy of mindfulness, concentration, and insight realizing this is my home, the present moment. And when we dwell happily in the present moment, as the Buddha has encouraging us to do, we can nurture ourselves. We can make ourselves be happy. There are favorable conditions for us to be happy. Thay has given a calligraphy. Each moment is a gift of life. So this very moment is a gift of life. So precious. So we are very rich, because life is offering us in every moment conditions for us to live. The air is free. Actually not free. It takes many generations of beings living on earth to produce this quality of air. It has not been fresh like this on the earth. The earth has been evolving. There is a evolution, and many beings has been contributing this quality of air for us to breathe. So this is a real gift of life of many beings. And to have this mere body like this is a gift of life as well, a gift of our ancestors as well. To be able to walk is a miracle. We have seen our friend sitting on the wheelchair being pushed, supported by our friends during the walking meditation. That is also a miracle. Sitting on the wheelchair, not being able to walk, but supported by our community to join the walk. To have eyes like this, capable of seeing, is a real miracle. I have broken my collarbone in a soccer game in Plum Village with the brothers last spring according to the time in Europe. So in here is fall, in Australia is fall. So it has been 1 year ago. Oh my goodness, not capable of doing anything. Lying on the bed, I need the support of my brothers. Changing the clothes, taking a shower, I realize, oh my goodness, Thay has gone through this process. Not capable of doing things like Thay has been doing. And Thay has been practicing to rely on the support of the community. And I felt so compassionate to Thay. I was Thay attendant for 3 months, and it was a beautiful time being with Thay, capable of offering our love and support to Thay, and nourishing the relationship as teacher and student. And now being sick, having a broken collarbone, then I realized, oh, Thay is doing his best to live his life in his sickness. So having an illness, having a handicap, having pain in our body, in our mind, it could be an opportunity for us to learn how to love ourselves more. And it could be an opportunity to realize I need help. I am independent. I can stand on my own feet, but I sometimes I need help, especially in difficult moment, and that is a training. I need relationship, and having illness, suffering and pain is a chance for us to develop understanding, sympathy for others. We are not so different as we thought. And understanding, it brings about compassion and happiness in us. And as a human being having understanding and compassion, we grow as the trees are growing every day. We open ourselves more and we see our interconnectedness, our deep connection with all the beings. The Buddha has spoken about that in the Sutra of the Four Noble Truths. So there is mindfulness, and is mindfulness of suffering. And as we see, if we are aware of our pain and our suffering, we may develop understanding and love for ourselves and for others. So suffering in this life is noble. Suffering has a role to play in our life. And when we look deeply in our suffering, we may find the causes of suffering. Because everything has reasons, every living being has foods to be alive. So there are conditions, there are causes of suffering. That is the second truth. The first truth is suffering, the awareness of suffering, and the second truth is to see the causes of suffering. And we make use of mindfulness to do that. And in our tradition, mindfulness goes along with concentration and insight, understanding. So, be in touch with suffering, with the energy of mindfulness, concentration, and insight. We find out the causes of the suffering. We develop understanding and compassion for ourselves and for each other. And that brings about happiness. Or in the original word is the end of suffering. And Thay has translated into the term happiness as the end of suffering. understanding. Love. Is born from mindfulness of suffering and the causes of suffering, and give rise to end of suffering or happiness, and also the path of the end of suffering or the path of happiness. I would like to make a note here. The end of suffering doesn't have to be the end of suffering. We may have an incurable disease, or this is how our body and our mind is. But if we can develop understanding and love for our suffering, we naturally develop a sense of happiness, of acceptance, of I can live with myself. I can live with my suffering. I can live with my pain, with my illness. I don't have to end. I don't have to push my illness, my pain and my suffering away in order to have happiness, in order to have understanding and love. You see that? So be careful about this. In fact, we need to understand and love our suffering, to accept this, and to live with this, and to learn from it. That is one way. The way of starting with the awareness of suffering, causes of suffering, develop understanding and love, and therefore we can develop happiness and the path of happiness. The other way is to develop to nurture our happiness right here and right now, no matter how much suffering we have. We need to strengthen our immune system by living healthy, eating well. So we need to produce, to nurture our happiness, to treasure our favorable conditions to be happy. And Thay used to say, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. Yeah? So we don't need to wait for happiness to come. We produce happiness. We make use of our conditions to be happy. And this way is very, very crucial to produce happiness. And by doing that, so this way, producing happiness, no matter how much suffering we have, is very crucial in order to nourish ourselves, and nourishing is at the same time healing. Nourishing is at the same time healing. So we heal our suffering, the causes of suffering, by nourishing ourselves. By nourishing ourselves with the path of happiness. So we can see there is a recycling process. So one way is to be aware of suffering and the causes of suffering, to develop understanding and love. So we make use of suffering to understand the causes of suffering, to develop compassion, sympathy, in order to produce happiness. And happiness is made of understanding and love. Like I use the image, the lotus and the mud. The lotus live together with the mud and make use of the mud to grow. Yeah? And the lotus is not affected by the smell of the mud. The lotus produces the fragrance of the lotus. But the lotus cannot live without the mud. So if we are skillful enough, making use of mindfulness, concentration inside, we can make use of the suffering and the causes of suffering to produce more understanding and more love about ourselves and about each other, about life. So we are not drowned in suffering, but we can live with suffering. And our spiritual ancestors, have been doing like that from generation to generation, and transmitting their experiences, their understanding and love to us. That's why we are here today. Our parents, our ancestors, they have been doing their best to live their life, to offer love and support to us as their children. But we know they are limited by their conditions. They may not have a way to produce happiness and understanding and love as we do have today. So it is our precious opportunity to continue their work, to continue their way of understanding and love, to support them doing that, rather than to blame them. It's easy to blame. Oh, mom, dad, why, and why? So if we have pain, suffering, habitual energy that may harm us, relating to our parents, our grandparents, then we may use the energy of mindfulness, concentration and insight to accept, to acknowledge. This is part of my life. This is part of the transmission of my parents, my ancestors to us. But I am more than this suffering. I am more than this habitual energy that may harm me and others. Because I still can produce the awareness, the mindfulness, the concentration to embrace the pain and the suffering. Yeah? We make use of this process. Mindfulness, concentration, insight of our suffering and the causes of suffering. So we still have some freedom, some space to hold our suffering. And we can develop understanding and love for our parents, for our grandparents. Once we get in touch with the suffering, then we understand more what our parents and grandparents have gone through. And at this very moment, in a more favorable conditions for us to live, for them to live, we may like to invite them in us to make use of the favorable conditions. For example, at this moment, there is peace, there is no war, that my parents, my ancestors have gone through, then I can breathe. I can walk in peace for them, to heal the wounds of the world. At this moment, there is peace. I treasure this moment. I walk and I invite my daddy, my mommy to breathe and to walk with me, so that they have a chance to taste, to heal. And if the habitual energy that may harm me and others so strong, then I may make use the energy of my ancestors, of my community to support me. I may invite Thay to walk with me when I have strong emotion, when I feel sad, when I feel down, I feel desperate, I have a depression, I don't see joy in the present moment. I may like to invite my teacher, my spiritual ancestors to lift me up, to walk with me, to hold my hand. Or we may like to ask support in our family, from family members. Please listen to my sharing. I don't feel well at this moment. Please listen with compassionate ear, so that I have a chance to share what is going on in me. And with the energy of compassionate listening, the pain and the suffering can be embraced, can be accepted, can be acknowledged. And the miracle happens, then I feel better and I can produce an aspiration to live this moment with my determination to do my best to be more happy in order to take care of myself, and also in order to support my family, because I know my suffering and my happiness is deeply connected with my family. So I have a sense of responsibility to do more my best. So sharing and listening with compassion is very healing, is very supportive. It can produce a miracle. Thay has given us a way how to communicate. So in a relationship of parents, children, friends, husband, wife, in a relationship, if we can practice like this, it's very nourishing and healing for the relationship. When there is pain, suffering, then we may like to, first of all, to be mindful of our pain and suffering, and then to share, to let the other person know, I am in pain, I have this feeling, I don't feel well. So this, we share, and by sharing and by being listened with compassion, then the pain and the suffering is embraced by both, by two persons or more, and there is a feeling of togetherness. There is the feeling I am not alone taking care of my suffering, and we strengthen our relationship. So sharing goes along with listening. And that produce connection, strengthening the relationship and embracing the pain and the suffering together. The second step is to be responsible for our suffering, our pain. My dear, I am in pain, I'm suffering, and the second step is I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best to take care of my suffering. So we are practicing, we rely on our practice and we ask for support. The third step is, please help me. This step is producing a miracle. It's opening our heart. It strengthens the relationship. It helps us to overcome our pride. And it produces a trust in each other. Please help me. And it shows our courage that we would like to do it together. We would like to embrace our suffering together. And the person who is listening feel like, oh, I have a honor, a precious opportunity to listen, to understand my beloved one, what is going on in my beloved one. I have a precious opportunity because my beloved one trusts me and share what is deep in her and his heart. And that produce a feeling of, wow, I am something for her. I have a role in his life. I have a role in her life. So that feeling is very precious, is very nourishing for the relationship. I am not a zero for my beloved one, because my beloved one needs me, trusts me, and share to me. Now I have a chance to listen with compassion, with patience, and I may offer some support. And when I get in touch with his or her suffering, with my understanding, then I have patience. It takes time to take care for this suffering. I have patience because I understand, because I care for my beloved one. And patience, as our teacher said, is a mark of true love. So each of us does have two roles, the one who share and the one who listen. Because each of us does have suffering and pain in us as well. We are not perfect. But if we can start building our relationship with this practice, then two of us or more of us can strengthen our relationship based on the practice. And when the relationship is based on the practice, we get the support from the community, from our spiritual ancestors. And that is taking refuge in the Dharma, in the practice, in the community, in the Buddha. You see that? So in this practice, there is the presence of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And Thay encouraged us to write this practice, 3 steps, down in a piece of paper and put it in our pocket. And we may take it and make use of it. This teaching is deep, very deep, and Thay has been offering this teaching many times. And I would like to make an effort to offer to you as a suggestion. And you might like to take time to study and put into practice. So each of us is living with birth, old age, sickness and death. Yeah, that is part of life. That is how life is. And the key here is to see these manifestation of life as natural. We don't have to see a separate self-entity in this process. That is very important. When we identify ourselves, we put a separate self, an idea of a separate self, me, entity in this circle of life, then we suffer. The Buddha has said, if something manifests because the conditions are sufficient, the flower is manifesting thanks to non-flower elements. And there is an interaction between flower and non-flower element in every moment. So there is no separate self-entity in the flower, and the flower is free, is not limited by the form of the flowers. We see the flowers in water, we see the flower in earth, we see flower in us. You see that? Flower is free in a natural way. But human being, we have an idea of a separate self-entity, a separate self-soul, then we suffer. We may feel we have a soul, but that soul doesn't have to be separate from non-soul elements. Yep. And now a step further. Thay has offered us 8 kinds of body. We don't have only one body. We have 8 kinds of body. And this body, they support each other. They are not separate from each body. So the first body is this physical body, nhục thân. Physical, is it? PS. And we have also the Buddha body. It's made of mindfulness. Concentration inside, and going along with the Buddha body is Dharma body. And connected, we have the Sangha body. And these bodies, they are in us and around us. And then we have the continuation body. And so nothing get lost. The present become the past become the future, and the future become the present. Yeah? Continuation. And we have what we call body outside the body. Like this flower is here, we can touch, but this flower has another body outside of the flower, which is the air, the water, the sun, the people, the stars. So this flower has a body outside of the flower. Yeah? You see that? Okay. Each of us have that body outside of our body. So we are not imprisoned by this form. And we have another body, is cosmic body. And this is a huge one. The stars are us, and the stars is not outside of us. They are also here. There is no separation between us and life. And the last one is very beautiful, very wonderful. That is true nature body. And our true nature body, what we call in Buddhist term is, it has the nature, it has the substance, the characteristic of no beginning, no end. So our life doesn't have a separate self beginning, and our life doesn't end the end. Yeah? Before our birth, the moment of our birth, we are already there in the forms of our parents, our ancestors, in the form of life, Mother Earth, galaxy, and so on. So we don't have a separate self beginning. Yeah? And when we don't have a separate self beginning, then we don't have a end, even when we are dead. You see that? It's not easy, but when you use chopstick as Asian, or when you use spoon the way you used to do, or fork or knife, you see that our fingers hold, used chopstick, knife, fork, spoon in a natural way without our intervention. Because there is a continuous transmission of wisdom from generation to generation. There is no beginning of learning how to use chopstick, spoon, and so on. You see that? And that is the true nature of our life. So be in touch with our potato, with our spring roll, with our pho, with our apple pie. We are in touch deeply with our ancestor. We are coming home in the present moment. We are in touch with true nature of our life. It's not difficult, huh? And we can do it. It's doable. Yeah? When we walk, just pay attention. This step is not my step only. This step can be the step of my parents, my ancestors, and all the living beings making my life possible. I open myself up. I come home in the present moment. I come to my true selves, and that gives peace, stability, and freedom in every moment, even in the moment of dying. In the moment of dying, be in touch with our true nature. We die peacefully because we know we are not dying. Yeah? Thank you for your patience and your attention. Good luck to each of us. It takes lifetime after lifetime to train, but it is doable. And one moment is enough to give us a sense, I can do it. It's like playing tennis. I train and I train and I train. Yeah. Thank you.